This right here is Robinson. He is our cameraman. How you doing, Robin?
I'm doing awesome, Justin.
All right. So he is sporting what is a very nice Clearcom headset right here. And this is what's called his belt pack. It's not on his belt because it's on the camera, but it works just the same. So the first way to check that all the Clearcom packs are working properly is making sure that two things work on here. The call light, so you should push this button right here and you should get a red light. That means it's getting power. You should also check that if you push the talk button, you get a nice green light. That's just a cursory check to make sure that the basic functions are working. If either of those are failing or both of them are failing, the connection here is probably not good for some reason. Now, once we have all the cameramen in place, in this case Robinson, I'm going to go back into the booth, get on my Clearcom headset, and make sure that I can hear him and he can hear me. So let's go. All right. So I'm going to put on my headset. Let's see. There we go. And hold my button. Robin, can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear.
All right, very good. Can you push the call button, please? Good, so when you push the call button, the talk light lit up really bright. Now I'm going to push my call button, make sure it lights up your call light right over there, okay?
It's working.
All right, very good. Thank you. All right, so now we're back over the switcher, and the switcher itself is actually still off. We turn it off before we hit the power button because it doesn't like losing power to itself without being turned off from the power switch right here. So we're going to turn it on, and we're greeted with a nice Panasonic screen on the front right here, some flashing lights, some other exciting things like that. And it's going to take a second to load right now. It's telling us it's loading. And now we have a couple more things on the monitors. Over here, you now see we have our shot of the very strong, manly woman telling us that we can do it. And that's called our preview monitor. Basically, that's showing us not what's going on air at the moment, but what is about to go in air. What's in queue, what's previewed, what we're about to go to. Switch to, if you will. Over here, this monitor is basically the broadcast monitor. This is either what's coming out of the recording device over here, out of the tape deck, or it could also be what's coming out of the cable box. And the idea behind that is that if we're going to broadcast live on channel 78, we want to make sure that what's going out of here is actually successfully getting to channel 78. The way that we switch this here is this input button right on the remote. So we push input, and we don't want any of these channels. Those are just static. We want input 1 for this tape deck, I believe. Let's see. So this deck right here is where the mini DV tape will go that's recording the entire broadcast. And it's also a great place to view what's going through. Okay, so I correct myself. Input 2 is actually where this tape deck goes through. And right now it's just a little bit of, it's a blue screen, basically, which is coming from the switcher. If we wanted to watch Cablevision, if we wanted to watch Channel 78 or, I don't know, like Cops or Discovery Channel, we would go to input 3 on here, and then this cable box, just like your home cable box, lets us watch Channel 78 or really any other channel that you want on basic cable. And this is very helpful, as I said before, for making sure that the broadcast is happening properly. So let's take it back to input 2. During an actual show, you don't want to watch it off of the broadcast because there's a slight delay because of processing. So you're going to be seeing everything happening about 1.5 to 2 seconds late of it actually happening in real time. It gets really confusing. So we're going to watch it on this instead. So right now we have a blue screen, which doesn't seem to make any sense because A, B, C, and D are the 4 inputs going in to the switcher. But there's actually a 5th one. It's not a real input, it's just generated inside of the switcher itself, and it's used for titling and graphics and shapes and other things like that, which is what you're looking at right now. That's what that blue screen is. if you look down here, we have all 4 of our inputs right here, and then our 5th one, which is called internal, or INT, which basically means is the internal color generation system. Now, down here, we have this red light, which basically means that this bus, so the B bus, is what is currently active, meaning that whatever is selected in here is what's actually going to tape and to broadcast. Over here is the A bus, and right now, because the light isn't lit on the A bus, it means that this is what's in queue. This is what is being shown up on the preview monitor, and this is what will be used if we were to switch right now. So you always have something that's actually being broadcast and something in queue that you're ready to switch to very quickly. And the way that we switch is we take this bar right here, it's called the take bar, and we move it up to the top. And now, the red light has moved up here, meaning that the A bus is what's going out to broadcast. There's no red light down here because this is Q. And now we have B, camera B, going out on this television right here. And this TV is the one with the blue image on it. So basically these two have swapped places. Now if you watch really closely to the actual TVs, the preview and the broadcast TV, you'll see that once we get into the transition, the preview monitor switches from the source in queue, so it switches from the color, the blue, to what's actually happening in real time. Because there's actually a transition happening here. It happens to be a very simple cross dissolve, but it wants you to be able to see it in preview. That can be a little confusing sometimes though, because once you get to the end, it's going to snap back to this shot. Just remember that that's not what the audience is seeing and that's not what's being recorded. It's only for your use over here. So what are some other transitions you can use? Cross dissolves get boring after a while. So if you wanted to use another transition, you would do it by selecting a different pattern here. But first, before we get ahead of ourselves, let's do something a little more interesting than this blue screen. So we have the manly lady in Q. She's input B. And let's put Johnny Depp into broadcast. So we're going to change what's down here, what's in the B bus, to source 3, or C. So you notice how that's just changed. Now when I move the take bar, it fades between those two instead of fading between the blue. Alright, so we can change the pattern here a couple different ways. One of the best ways is by actually typing in a number. There's something like 900 different patterns, some of which are transitions, some of them are special effects. 56 is the standard fade. We can either type in a new number, like we could type in 57. Well, let's see. Oh, it doesn't seem to be cooperating. Oh, of course. Silly me. Alright. We need to push the pattern button up here to change patterns, because there are a bunch of other features that you can also change with the numerical pad right here. So we're going to push pattern, and now type in 57. And you see it's come up here. And enter is right here. It's this arrow. And we push enter, and now it takes. So 57 happens to be a star. And of course with the take bar we can not only control the speed that the transition happens, but also go back and forth with it. We don't even have to finish the transition. We could go this far and come all the way back. We can do whatever we like, basically. The other way to change the transition is with these plus and minus keys right here. Plus, of course, increases the number by 1, and minus decreases it by 1. So we can check out some other transitions. We have a heart right here. Not quite sure what this is. It's a pretty cool one. This looks like a simple cross dissolve. Now, some of the patterns look like they're basic transitions, but they might be something more complicated. It might be a transition and an effect put together. The user manual, which Mr. Honeycutt or Mr. Zito can get for you if you'd like, has a list of every single pattern, organized by what it does, the number, and actually by group too. What kind of pattern it is, whether it's a straight transition or a transition and effect, some sort of combo like that. So that gets very complicated, but there is that list to help you out. Another quick note, these buttons right here, these are all soft knobs, which basically means that their actual position doesn't matter at all. essentially, it's like a soft key in your cell phone where the button has no label, but there's a label on the screen right above it that tells you what the button does at the time. So with these knobs, you can turn them as much as you want when it's off, and it's not going to change anything. So it lets you navigate these menus right here, which in the transition screen allows you to modify certain properties of transitions. This one right here, all the way on the left, lets you change which row you're in. So right now I'm in the modify row, which doesn't seem to have any options. Looks like it's just a title. And now I've changed down to the pattern edge row. So I can change whether the edge of the transition is hard or soft or has a border to it or has a soft border. So those are my options. So let's choose a transition that has an edge, like the star. So now if you look, or this is actually the heart. If you look where the heart ends, there's a very soft blurred edge right there. Now I can change it in the middle of the transition. This is hard, that's soft, that's border, and that's soft border. And that color, the color of the border and the thickness are also changeable. So over here, border, the width can be changed. I can make it thicker or thinner within a great range. Goes all the way down to like 1 pixel to 255 pixels, which is kind of ridiculous. We can also change the color right here. That's just another wheel. And then there's yellow, cyan, there's yellow, and cyan, green, magenta, red, blue, black, and then there are custom colors, which we might get into later. That gets a little bit tricky, but you can do some pretty cool things with them, like make patterns and gradients and things like that. Basically, all of this stuff is stuff to play with at some point under the supervision of Mr. Honeycutt and Mr. Zito when you have time to kind of learn new things about it. During a live show is not a good time to experiment with any of this stuff because if you don't know what you're doing with it, it'll make the show look awkward, kind of weird, things like that. Let's go down one more menu. So over here it says effects, and the only other option right now says off. So it looks to me like if I turn this knob, it's going to be able to turn on certain effects for me. So the effects are shadow and trail. So let's see what shadow looks like when we move it. So if you look carefully, there's actually, as the heart gets smaller, there's a black border that sort of trails behind the heart as if it's a shadow there. It doesn't look very much like a shadow, but it does look pretty cool, and there are lots of interesting things you can do with stuff like that. The other option is trail. Let's see what that looks like. So that looks like sort of sparks or something, or pixels, noise, things like that, going where the heart used to be. So it's kind of like a digital trail there. And it looks like there are also different options for how the trail looks. This is one option. It looks kind of smoother. That looks pretty cool. Or self-spark, which looks pretty much like the first one. Or self, which looks like exactly like the second one. There's also time, which I assume is how long the trail lasts there after the object's moved over it. So if I set the time to twice as long, it'll take a lot longer for the trail to fade away. So I've set the trail from 16 to 32, and this is the difference. So now the trail is still there, but it takes twice as long to fade away. I'm not sure what unit those are, that is, what 32 means exactly, but it probably explains it in the list of effects and transitions in the user manual.